Hey, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Racha HaKodash. Double honors to our apostles who are elders rule well. Blessings and salutations to you brothers out there teaching and enduring truth and sincerity. This for Abba Maffa, the Nebraska camp. And Shalaki. Damn. I wanted to do a lesson going over the nation shall hate the whore, and I'm going to get the precept that I'm referencing. So in reference to that, we're going to go into Revelations 17. All right. It says 17 and 16. It says, in the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, which is those 10 horns is NATO and the EU, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. And those nations, again, is NATO and EU, they shall hate the whore. The whore is the whore that sitteth upon the beast is the daughter of Babylon. The daughter of Babylon is America. Okay? And this is that connection. So, i.e., the NATO and EU shall turn their backs on America, which is happening, which is prophecy being fulfilled. All right? And get a few things to back it. And we all know the reason why is going over that Strait of Hormuz, okay? And via dealing with that strait, we go to ChatGPT real quick. I just looked up the economic effects of NATO, the economic effects of NATO nations because of the Iranian-U.S. war. It says the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran has triggered severe economic consequences for NATO nations, characterized by surging oil prices, Brent crude over $113 a barrel, increased inflation, and supply chain disruptions due to tensions in the Strait of Hormuz. European economies face heightened recession risks, high energy costs, and potential structural depression. Okay, and then once you go down, it says key economic effects on NATO nations. It says energy crisis and inflation. The conflict especially disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz has driven up global oil and gas prices, resulting in rising transport, heating, and utility costs that has exacerbated inflation pressures across NATO countries, with significant increases in diesel costs affected by food supply chains. And those food supply chains, man, they got a lot of things, because let's see here. So once we go into, what it says here, it says the main foods imports NATO countries get from non-NATO countries are soybeans, soybean meal, and animal feed, mainly from Brazil, Argentina, and Ukraine. So that's another thing. You still got to get that, the things that they got to get from like China, that's over with. You know what I'm saying? Or it's going to be heavily taxed because they could still be doing business. China still got to make their money, But for them to get past Iran, that's a whole situation in itself. See, so that's why that Strait of Hormuz is so important, not only for oil, but because of how much less oil it take and time to, get certain things that geologically don't sit where, you can get too fast. I.e., if you're in Europe and you gotta get something from China, Taiwan, all right, Japan, Tokyo, India, you know what I'm saying? Because Europe has a history of business with India, going back to the East Indian Trading Company, so for them to close that strait has a heavy impact, in which these nations are upset, and this is affecting their main oil income and the source of it, because when we go back to what I was reading earlier, it says energy crisis and inflation. Says the conflict, especially disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz, has driven up global oil and gas prices, resulting in rising transport, heating, and utility costs. See, so, you know what I'm saying? And it's, again, supply chain disruptions. The conflict is causing increased freight rates and disrupting global trade routes, affecting the importation of critical goods. You know, so the thing is, America still getting their shit, or they still stocked up or however it works. You know what I'm saying? And their business has never relied on the network system of what was going on in Europe in its entirety, because they just got their oil from Argentina. They already got, you know, with Canada and you know, other countries and Hawaii and messing with, you know, Mexico, and, you know, they're getting a lot of resources from other countries. You know, there's certain things that are being affected, but not to the point that where how Europe can be crippled, you know, which is causing them, like, again, when Trump get on there and you don't hear France say something, you know, like we and brothers was talking, it's like if you on a record label and Diddy start talking crazy about you, you're not gonna hop up and say, hey, you know, watch your mouth, because your album ain't gonna never come out. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta, you know, kind of like, nah, you kind of wilding with that one. I ain't with that, but I guess if he want to do it, if you like it, I love it. Because they need that, the American defense, they need these things. But again, you know, Trump is upset because these countries didn't want to provide them weaponry. They didn't want to uphold this war because it ultimately messes up their ties with these other countries. So now they're talking about, you know, NATO and the EU talking about separating, and then he got the border peace going on. So we're watching prophecy either have growing pains, you know, rumblings, or manifesting. Either two is heading in that direction. All right, so, and it's a beautiful thing to see. Okay, so I wanted to get something else as well. All right, damn. So, got this article. It says, The Hill International, how the U.S. allies in Europe are responding to the war in Iran. It says leaders across Europe are digging their heels in against military involvements in the Middle East as President Trump repeatedly lashes out against NATO allies for their reluctance to support the U.S. operation in Iran. The long-standing NATO alliance has come under increasing strain in recent months due to a depending rift over the war with Iran, with vital Strait of Hormuz at the epicenter of Trump's pressure campaign. Though some NATO countries, including the United Kingdom, have signaled a readiness to contribute to reopening the strait, they have resisted calls to enter the war in a broader capacity. Trump has rebuffed their collective opposition, referring to NATO as a paper tiger and its members as cowards, while using thinly veiled threats of economic consequences or to pull the U.S. out of the agreement entirely. You know, and it says, and he quotes, "You'll have to start learning how to fight for yourself. The USA won't be there to help you anymore, just like you weren't there for us," Trump wrote a Truth Social post on Tuesday, referring to the countries which refused to get involved in the decapitation of Iran. You know, it says the United Kingdom has been singled out often by Trump since the joint U.S.-Israeli operation began. And again, we're going to read all that, you know, because they're going to give you a lot of fluff. But at the end of the day, you know, this is affecting these people and it's affecting their products. You know, like they get stuff from India, they get stuff from Brazil, they get things from China. And you want people to bomb these people, and you're bombing China's allies. You're bombing India's allies. You know, so you're making it hard for everybody. And everybody's still trying to figure out, when I say everybody, I'm talking about these countries, why y'all up in there? You know? But they know, but it's like you don't have a good reason. What are you doing? So I can't just jump in this and be justified. It looks bad. You know, like you know, the opposition is like, so y'all clearly don't honor deals. So y'all clearly don't care about nothing. You know, like you've been you know, handling business with China, and y'all been making good money. Then your homie America just stole on Beijing or stole on Taiwan, and America like jump in. And like, nah, because if I hit him, then me and China ain't gonna be homies. And America's like, well, I ain't gonna help you no more. And you need America's help. You know you can't live without them. So they're putting them in a jam. What we call back at home is throwing them in a cross. Got them crossed up, man. You know. But with that being said, we'll give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rechal HaKodash, double honor to our apostles who are elders who rule well. Bless sight to HC brothers out there teaching and enduring truth, sincerity. Shalom.